Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for being here with us today. We're going to start with the Surefire webinar. John Caldwell will be the presenter for today's webinar, and thank you so much for being here. John, you can start.
Perfect. Welcome, everyone. First of all, I'd like to thank EPCOM, specifically April and Victor, for making this happen. And I don't have access to everyone's names, but this was also going to be a little bit of a informal type of thing. We're going to go over some exciting new products that we have teamed up with EPCOM to bring to you. But if you have questions as we go, you're welcome to jump in. Oftentimes those questions are answered throughout the presentation. So like I said, if it's something you need to know now, that's fine. Otherwise, just hang on till the end. And if you still have the question, please, we'd love to answer it for you. One of the things about this product that is exciting is that it does things that people have a little bit of hard time wrapping their head around. And so we're excited to show it to you and talk about some of the ways that it's being utilized and not only the use cases, but some of the things that is being used in a lot of different unique ways. And so as we talk about it, be thinking about ways that you can use this to help save you money, to help you win more bids, and to make you more effective at your jobs, and save you a lot of time, money, even save you having to hire and train new people. So if that is okay, and Victor, if we're ready to go, we'll just get started. So first of all, my contact information is there on that start page. You may want to jot that down only because, not that I'm all that important, but as you start to use this product, we have people all throughout the country that can actually come in and especially on a first-time install, come in and actually come out on the installation with you, and we're happy to have them help and make sure that your install goes well, because part of the reason that we do that is we know that if we come out and make sure that you have a good experience and help you through it, that you'll use 10 next month. And so it's really worth it to us to help you through this new type of an installation. So jot my information down, and as you start to use this product, please contact me with any questions as well as any installations you have coming up, and we will do our best to get somebody out to help you. So. All right, first of all, I want to touch base with a quick overview about what we're going to talk about. First of all, we're going to talk about what does Surefire do as the platform, the value proposition for partners and integrators, as well as how is this a unique application, and then how it is applied out in the field, and some of the things that we've come up with. I meet with integrators every week, and they come up with the most ingenious and unique applications that I would have never thought of. So I really appreciate that aspect of working with the installers and integrators. They really are really quite amazing in the ways that they put some of these products together. So the capabilities, first of all, Surefire is a platform. All of the Surefire products has the exact same radio. So as we talk about the radio, some people confuse this with something like Wi-Fi or whatever. This is a standalone system connecting between two sides, and we basically are replacing wire for different types of platforms. So what the Surefire radio does, it is the first radio designed to reliably connect through heavy obstruction. I've gone through this thing with 12 feet of concrete. We can get out of a Faraday cage. It's been connected across from Winnemucca, Nevada to Ogden, Utah, 117 miles. We tell people that it's a 1 mile obstruction and 50 miles line of sight. Can you see my cursor there as I'm going over that? I don't know if anyone else is talking at all, but if you can see my cursor, we're talking about that 1 mile with obstruction. Now, I understand that a lot of people are saying, yeah, sure. The truth is that wireless has been notoriously sketchy, but this is why we want you to try this and to test it. And I have taken this through 31 steel walls. We've taken it through multiple condo units. It's just something that's really quite impressive. And the thing to remember about this is, yes, it's great that it can do all that, but it also, the type of unit this is this allows you to also use it on a day-to-day basis, so you just don't have to wire. It's inexpensive enough that it saves you a lot of time. So we'll go through that in a little bit. The radio is also encrypted with 128-bit encryption, 72 channel hopping, and over-the-air rekeying, so we can use it in places like airports, military bases, things like that need high security. And it's also multipath, so we send out a lot of different signals, and they come back in, and then the radio on the other side chooses which signal is the strongest. So just a quick overview of the radio, but like I said, it is a platform that we can put a lot of different applications in. So it's like a pickup truck, and then we put the Wiegand and relay application in the bed, or we put in an HVAC application in the bed, or whatever else, so that whatever that is in the bed gets sent to that same radio. Now, do we have any questions so far? Are we doing okay? I'm having a little hard time because I can't see who's talking or not talking, but if you do have questions, please just chime in, and otherwise we'll just keep rolling, and we'll get, I'd love to hear your interactions and your questions as we go. So
Yes, please send out your questions, and I'll be sending that to John.
Perfect. Are you just doing that on the chat, Victor?
No, not yet.
Okay. All right. So this is a quick overview of some of our current products. We have quite a few that are have been in beta testing and are being developed right now. But right now, the same radio on the left side of the product. So they're all have the same strength of signal and the same ability to get through obstruction. We have a Wiegand, an Hvac, a relay only, and an analog bridge. The Hvac also is used for 24-volt systems such as sprinkling systems and irrigation and things like that. All right. We also have a mobile app that actually interfaces with our units, so that if you are installing the unit, you can go up, you can scan the QR code, and you can interface and see what things are happening. You can trigger the relays, you can look at the Wiegand code coming in, that kind of thing. All of that to help the integrator in the field know what's happening. And that is also supported from back at headquarters. You can call in, scan it, and they can actually see what's happening real time through your phone with your permissions back at headquarters, so that they can troubleshoot any kind of issues you may be having. So this has been a really great thing. Integrators love this. All right, so the first one that we're going to focus on primarily is the Wiegand Wireless I, because most of you are integrators that use access control and relays and that kind of thing. And this is where the Wiegand controller interface really shines. This is something that interfaces with all Wiegand types of inputs. You were talking about card readers, door strikes, talking about fobs, anything like that. Anything that's a Wiegand input, you can connect to the Wiegand controller interface, and also have different types of outputs. So you connect that there. You also have 2 relays going each direction. So you have a total of 4 relays. Now what this does is this allows you to, in case of a gate, or in case of a door, or whether that's interior doors or doors in skyscrapers. We've taken this up 23 floors in a skyscraper and no problem with the signal. You can control all of that now wirelessly. You don't have to send it through conduit. You don't have to try to trench. You don't have to dig holes. You don't have to do any of that. Throw it through drop ceilings, and it is as sure as wire. It is a strong signal that allows you to do this now, that whereas wireless signal before, I'm not trying to bag on anybody else's product, but what happens is it'll say, hey, you can go 500 feet, and you guys know how this is. You install it, and you go about 150 feet through a wall, and you've lost signal completely. That will not happen with the Surefire radio. So this allows you, instead of wasting time running the wire and wasting not only the time of the people there that could be out making you money somewhere else, but it also, the expense of the wire, the expense of the conduit, the expense of trenching, all that can go away. A 15-minute wire up and you are done. So I'm going to go back one second. Any questions on the Wiegand features or anything to do with the Wiegand Wireless product? All right, we'll keep rolling. With that, the Wiegand feature, let me just tell you some things that have been done. I had an integrator that's one of our great integrators down in the Vegas area, and he had just hired a new guy. And you know how this is. When you get busy, you say, well, I'm going to hire somebody. We're going to do a little bit of training. We're going to give them their own van or truck or whatever. We're going to send them out on the easier jobs, and then eventually they'll become profitable for us. Well, that's the idea. What happened to him is that he had a guy and had him trained up, and And he said he one day just didn't show up to work, and they couldn't figure out where he was, and he didn't answer his phone. And anyway, they find his van with all the tools stripped out of it on the side of a highway, and the guy disappeared. And so he said, you know what, I am sick of doing this. I'm going to find a way to use my integrators that I already have to be more efficient. And then he found Hvac. And so he has a handful of integrators that they know what they're doing. They're really well trained. They don't burn stuff up. They don't steal the tools. They don't leave the van off the side of the road. And he's, instead of having them dig holes, instead of having them trench, instead of having them, bend conduit for hours or days at a time, he's just having them put in a Hvac unit on every single installation, because almost always you have to do one of those things to move the wire. So he says it's not worth it. I get my installers, they're off to another job. I don't have to hire new people. I don't have to wait until they're profitable for me and lose thousands of dollars on abandoned vans on the side of the road with all the tools gone. So I think that's a scenario that most of you probably can relate to. So this is not just an application for a huge, terribly difficult situation only. Yes, it does that. I have taken these an incredible distance, but it also fixes the problem with utilizing and your very experienced, very good installers that know what they're doing and can make you a lot of money. So there's another situation where a guy was, he started doing this and he said, I have a dead file, and I think you guys have all done this. You have a dead file where you have a whole list of people that said, yeah, I like the idea of access control, but I can't afford it, because you have, say, $20,000 in equipment. You got door operators, you got card readers, you got all that stuff, gate operators, controllers. And then you have $30,000 or $40,000 in conduit or trenching or whatever else. And so they said, that just priced us out of having it. A lot of HOAs are doing this. And so I have this gentleman who went back to his dead file because he started using access control with Hvac almost exclusively. And he says, hey, that job that was going to cost you $50,000, now I can do for $20,000 because we have new technology. And he's picking up 60 to 70% of his dead file. And they're coming back and saying, yeah, let's do it. Let's get this done. We really want access control, but now we don't have to trench. Now we don't have to make the mess. Now we don't have to run conduit. We can do this. We can afford it. And that's been the experience of people that I've been working with. All right, we are moving ahead. And if you have questions, please send them to Victor and we'll keep you rolling. All right. So the next thing is a relay, and this is exactly the same thing as the Wiegand, except for it doesn't have the Wiegand. So you still have two relays each direction. So if you have Rexit buttons, if you have you want to integrate with other systems like the MyQ or RFID readers or whatever, and you just have to trigger a relay, this is great because it's a little bit cheaper, but you just don't have the Wiegand inputs if you're doing it a situation where or in a job that doesn't need Wiegand. So it's just like Wiegand, a little bit cheaper because it doesn't have the Wiegand inputs. All right, so let's talk about some of the ways that this is being used. All right, so we talked about the cost savings for the running wire. Retrofitting of old buildings. People hate to drill through these old buildings that are 140 years old. I went to an install about this, and they were excited because they were able to do access control on these really old buildings and not destroy the building, because we can get through the stone, we can get through the concrete. So it also helps replace damaged stored wire without the need to drill a hole, bore, conduit, move ceiling tile, everything that you guys are doing every day. I've actually used them also on forklifts, and this is a very interesting scenario. But by attaching them to the forklift, you can use the access control system that's already there that they use to go in, and makes it so that they have to badge on to turn them on. It also has a little impact sensor there, and it sends an alert if somebody hits something. Then you can control what's happening with the forklifts in these buildings that already have access control to them. And no matter where they go, because of the great penetration, the Hvac unit on the forklift can talk to the already existing access control system. This is a really exciting application that we've been putting in a lot. So something to be thinking about with your your customers, especially those who have warehouses and factories and things like that. Some of the other things that it's been used in that are a little bit unique, just to get you thinking, is elevators. Now, most people know about the little card swipe you have to do inside. You swipe the card, it'll allow you to push elevator level number 5, the button or whatever. What they don't realize is that there's been a rise in what's called parking, and this is a technique by people who aren't supposed to be in a building to get in the building. So what they'll do is they'll call the elevator at the bottom, and it comes down, but they can't get off on a floor because they don't have the right credentials. So they just sit in the elevator and wait until somebody calls it from another floor. So somebody from floor 18 calls it, well, it goes up to 18, they open the door, they pretend they're going there anyway, they walk out and they're now on floor 18 without having any credential, and this is becoming a security issue. So what we're doing is we're installing a Surefire unit with a card reader at the original lobby level call button, so that you have to use your card to even be able to to call the elevator or a fob or whatever. And this is adding another level of security for buildings who have tight security in them and where it's a major concern. We also use it for mustering or gathering points. In fact, EPCOM was very interested in this because this is something that's been happening a lot with a lot of our warehouses, factories. What this is, and most of you probably have heard of this, but I'll just explain it. What happens is that if there's some type of an evacuation of the facility or some type of an emergency, it allows you to badge in at your evacuation assembly point, so that everybody goes in the morning, they badge in to get in, and it clocks them in or whatever happens there. But then if there's an emergency and everybody has to come out, they all go out to a point that may be out in the parking lot or out on a back field or something away from the building, and they can badge in. So when the owner of the company or whoever is the manager, they can look at that and say, hey, everybody's out except for Tina and Sam, and they work over in the lab, so they know exactly where to send those people. This is really a huge movement in the commercial world. So being able to do that with the Surefire unit and not have to run conduit out there in the middle of the parking lot is a slam dunk, and something you can offer your customers that maybe haven't even thought about it. We've also done municipalities where their traffic light control boxes, their gun ranges, their cemeteries, their water control stations, all of those are connected wirelessly to their existing access control system. So it makes it like a big web throughout their entire city. They can control everything, whereas before it wouldn't be worth it to them to have a standalone access control system. So these are some ideas for you to be thinking about as you consider what you can do with a really powerful radio that sends out this access system throughout great ranges and through heavy obstruction. So just some things to be triggering your thoughts. Okay, I've got a question coming in from Arshan, and I apologize if I mispronounced your name. It says, with the elevator example you mentioned and how people could wait inside the elevator until it's requested from another floor and just get off on that floor, can you explain it in more detail and how your solution prevents this? You bet. So what happens is, if I am someone who's not supposed to be in this building, I can go down to the first level and I can push the call to the elevator button. It's somewhere up on one of the upper levels, and it comes down and it lets me in. Now, most elevators that want security have the ability to scan or swipe your card or access control badge on the inside that make it so that you have to do that or you can't push the button. Well, someone who doesn't, if I don't have access control, I can still just wait inside that elevator for somebody on another floor who wants to call the elevator there. So if they need to go out and they're calling that elevator to floor 15, I just sit in there for 5 minutes and somebody's going to call the elevator up. So all of a sudden I'm heading up to floor 15. I have not swiped a card. I have no access. I shouldn't be there, but I'm there waiting because I was able to get in at the bottom. And then when that door opens for them to get in at floor 15, me, without any access and without any reason to be there, walk out into floor 15. I'm now into this building where I should not have access. And that's what people are doing who shouldn't be able to be there. And what happens is, with the Surefire unit, we actually put an access control point at the call button in the lobby on that first floor. And what that does is that makes it so you have to swipe not only on the inside of the elevator, but also on the outside, even just to call it. So you put your card on it, or you put your code in, or whatever you want to do, and that allows you to control that access point, and that's send wirelessly, 23 floors up, or wherever that access control controller is, and you don't have to try to run wires through an elevator shaft, which is in of itself really a big pain. So Arshan, did that clarify that for you by way of how to use that on an elevator? All right, so let me answer also, I think it's Avi. Like I said, I apologize if I mispronounced this. The question was about CCTV applications. Now, I'm assuming you're talking about a video feed, and if it's a video feed, one of the trade-offs with a radio that can have this kind of penetration and distance is your bandwidth is limited. And so we have, and we'll get into in just a few slides, a new product coming out that will do serial data, but we still have limited bandwidth. And so what happens is that with a television camera, that is too much bandwidth for this radio to send. However, we can send voice. So with this new product that we're beta testing currently, and we've been able to send voice with it. So you have enough bandwidth to do a push to talk, kind of a half duplex kind of scenario. Now, like I said, that's not with one of our current products, but it will be out in the next few months. And so if you're talking about sending a video feed, I really wish that would work. But one of the trade-offs with having this kind of technology and heavy penetration, being able to go into basements and going through across towns and things like that, is we use a technology called Chirp, and that allows you to get through so much stuff, but it does limit your bandwidth. So we don't have the bandwidth with this product to run CCTV. However, if it's a situation where you're trying to send encoded things or serial data with low bandwidth, we would be able to do that with our new product. Avi, did that answer your question? Now I'm hearing somebody coming through with a microphone. Does somebody have a question for me on the microphone? Okay, all right, we're moving forward. So these are a lot of ideas. I love that it's getting you thinking. The CCTV is one of those that's, we wish we would be able to do with it, but the physics of this type of radio does limit that bandwidth. But I love that you're thinking. I love that you're thinking, well, what about this? What about that? Because we want to make your life easier. And like I said, it does a lot more than just access control. It does HVAC and could do irrigation. It can do forklifts. It can do a lot of different things. But like I said, as we talked about access control primarily, mostly because a lot of you guys are doing access or security systems and alarms and things like that. So, so hopefully that covered that on the CCTV question. All right, we are moving forward. So that's been mostly about our Wiegand. Now we have another product, which is the Hvac or 24-volt relay wireless bridge. The unique thing about this one is this one allows you to go one to multiple. So in some of your applications, you're going to want to receive the signal in 8 different locations at the same time, or you want to have 2 different locations and split it. So you have 8 channels going one direction that can trigger up to 8 relays, and you can split that through 2 different directions, or you can do a one to multiple. And I've got a little graph to explain that because it's a little bit confusing. This has been used with heat pump, fan coils, condensers, and building automation systems to trigger alarms and relays. Also irrigation, sprinkling systems, and as also can be used with things like alarms and sensors for a scenario where you have, for example, like alarm sensors and things like that. So this is an example of how it can be used by splitting the channels. You can control both of these. The right side shows the side that's on the equipment, and you can control both of these equipment interface units with a single thermostat on this side. So you're controlling both. They're both receiving the exact same information for all 8 channels. However, This is going to be on an air handler, and this is going to be on a heat pump outside, 2 different places. So we're going to hook up the channel 1 and 2 here, and channels 3 through 7 here to control different parts of that HVAC system. This is an explanation of a one-to-multiple. So for example, if you have 8 rooftop units, or you've got a bunch of sprinkling systems that you want to control out a long distance away at a golf course or something, this allows you to control all 8 of these. Now you can do these and mirror these, so all 8 of them are doing the exact same thing, or you can break up the channels like in the last slide and have this do channel 1 and 2 and just do 3, and these 2 are together for 3 or 4 and 5. They want to do the exact same thing, you know. So you can get creative because you can do one to multiple. So that's kind of unique about that HVAC / 24 volt relay system, and that's 24 volt AC. The analog is kind of a unique one, and I think you'll find this to be interesting. It's used a lot in building automation systems, but what it does is it gives you a variable voltage, a variable milliamp, and a variable thermistor output. So if you have sensors that need to say, okay, this is the temperature in that room, or this is the level of a light level sensor or an occupied sensor or whatever, this allows you to do up to 6 sensors both directions, so as well as variable control. So if you have a valve that needs to be opened or closed to a certain percentage, you can do this with this valve, with this bridge. Instead of just on or open or closed, this says you can turn it open to 30%, you can open it to 50% or whatever. So this analog I/O is just recently come out, and we're just scratching the surface. Yes, they're using it in building automation for all their sensors, so they don't have to run sensors all over the place, and they can save money by not having to use as many Jace units. And I don't know how many of you are into building automation or even understand what I'm saying, but in building automation, this top unit right here, they'll have multiple units similar to that spread out through a building, and they cost thousands of dollars, and they also have service contracts that every 3 years cost them thousands of dollars to update. And so with our units, we can save them a majority of that, because you'll notice with this one, you have 2 there, you have 2 there, 2 there. So you're using 6 or 10 of these, 6, 8, 10 maybe of these IOs, and there's 24 of them on there. They're not being used. But if you had all these sensors connected with the Surefire analog IO, that can all come in and be utilized, and you would have to use so few number of them that it's a huge price advantage for you. So that we've gone through the majority of the products, and we're going to go through some value proposition things. Any questions so far on the products that we've covered? Just throw them out there if you can to Victor as we go, and we'll keep rolling. All right. So the value proposition for our partners. These are both, you know, this is for integrators as well as people who are using this. This is a unique and valuable product. Nobody else does what we do. We have so many. There are so many things out there that try to do this, and we're really the only ones that can because of the kind of radio that we have. All right, I'm going to stop my this slide for 1 second because Damon had a question. Damon Dalazar, how do you solve power without getting a trench to the site or to the door? Okay, great question. All right, so power, it depends on the application, of course. So if it's a gate operator, for example, a lot of times they will have power by the road. They can pull from that. If it's a situation like, I'm going to back up here to go to our, there it is. If it's a situation like this evacuation assembly or mustering point, this particular application, as you can see, was a solar application because the Surefire unit it takes very little power compared to, you know, other types of things. You can run this off of a solar panel and very small power draw. So a lot of people will do that if it's in an application like the back gate or someplace that they don't want to use. The Wiegand particularly uses a 12 volt DC, and as does the relay, and the HVAC uses 24 volt AC. So I hope that answers that question. Okay, we're talking about, and Jamie asks the question, says, we'll be discussing SCADA applications similar to Phoenix Contact IO 900 megahertz solution. Okay. So how far do we want to get into this? First of all, let me answer the second question, because it actually has to do with the first question, and that is, what are our frequency ranges? All right, so with frequency, we run in the 900 megahertz world, which is 902-ish to 927, and it's channel hopping, so it goes in between there. In some of the countries we work in, we have to tweak and adjust those frequencies because, for example, Singapore cut that off, I think, at 916 or something. Anyway, so there are different places that have different requirements. So it is a 900 megahertz one, and with SCADA specifically, now SCADA is used quite a bit for gas and automated systems, industrial automated systems, and it's very similar to the building automation system. So if you have a sensor, for example, that is going to tell you oil pressure or gas line temperature or something like that, and this is back to Jamie's question. The analog I/O, let me get back to it. The analog I/O right there can send all that sensor information, and what happens with that is that allows you, for example, if you, I was talking with a gas executive, and they have a refinery in Utah, and that refinery has thousands and thousands of sensors throughout it, and they basically bring it back into one central SCADA kind of type of controlling unit, and those sensors could be used for the analog I/O could be used to replace any of those sensors that do variable voltage, variable milliamp, or variable thermistor with a variable voltage output, and that basically allows you to read those things and integrate them into the automated system, very similar to the building automation system. So I hope that answered your question, Jamie. If it doesn't, please let me know on an additional question so that I can cover that any more than what I have. Now, Nick asked about the frequency, which we discussed. All right, so it says in the question, it asks if it will work with GSM, LTE, Wi-Fi, WiMAX. Is it unlicensed, licensed? Okay, so we are not beholden to any of those systems because we have our own proprietary communications between, so we don't have to use GSM, LTE. And the nice thing about that is that you can actually do this without having to do a monthly contract. A lot of control systems that could be used, the Surefire, are doing like a phone system with GSM or LTE or whatever, and need to pay a $50 monthly contract, which people aren't very happy about. The Wi-Fi, as you guys all know, is not terribly strong, and we've actually been used with systems like the MyQ system. People have their garage door. I have my garage door connected with a MyQ system, so I can open it when I'm in Atlanta, and I can open my garage door for somebody to come in and fix the AC or whatever the situation is. The problem is that in order to get that out to a gate that's down the road a long way, the Wi-Fi just doesn't reach that far, and so we've been utilized with that to actually extend that distance and get that 500 yards, 1,000 yards, a mile down the road, and still be able to utilize that Wi-Fi enabled like MyQ system. And we can talk about that. Now, this is not a licensed, and the question was licensed or unlicensed. I'm not exactly sure what you're asking. If you're asking if you have to have a special license to use it, or if it's licensed only to be used in certain applications, that's not true. We are agnostic to any system. So what happens is those systems can't even tell that they're not wired. Their systems think that they're hardwired. It's just you've put in a Surefire unit and made it so it's completely blind to that, and it can't tell that it's not wired. And I don't know if that's what you had in mind. And Jamie's question about the 4 to 20 volt DC is accurate. we do the 4 to 20, and then we also have the milliamp, and we also have the thermistor inputs, 4 to 20 DC volts output. So Jamie, that covers your question. So I hope I addressed all of those. If you remember that we do not work with or interface with any other system, all we do is replace wires so you don't have to run it. But I will say that one thing that's nice is that we do not interfere with any of those systems. We had a school that we installed in, and all the people at the school were really concerned that it was going to interfere with their Wi-Fi. We have, like I said, we have a very unique proprietary system that does channel hopping. We're encrypted. We will not interfere with anyone else's system. So, all right, we're going to go ahead. Please keep your questions coming. Great questions. All right, so we talked a little bit about this already. We also wanted to point out the third bullet point was increasing integrator efficiency for more sales. All right, you guys, you know how much wasted time you have. You get out there, you have to tell your people you do a bid for, because they're always asking two questions when you give them a bid. You say, they always say, oh, how much? And you're like, okay, it's going to be, $15,000. And then the second question on the heels of that is always, when can you do it? And if you tell them I can do it in 5 weeks, maybe that's okay, but a lot of times they're going to go, yeah, I don't want to wait that long. Or if you tell them 3 months or whatever it is. So what happens is, if you can get off the job that you're doing right now that normally would take you 3 days, and you can get off of it in 1 day, guess what? You're going to win more of those bids. And not only that, but you can underbid your competition and have a competitive advantage, because you don't have to rent a trencher, you don't have to bend conduit, you don't have all those extra expenses, and you're winning more bids and getting off the job, and can do it instead of saying, yeah, I can do it in 3 weeks, you can say I can do it on Monday. And they're going to say, let's do it, let's get it done. And that is some of that value proposition. Also, there's a lot of education and information about that. For our integrators, like I said, we talked about outbidding the competition, both time and expense. We talked about this a little bit already, but you've got these star integrators that are digging holes, and you guys, maybe that's you, or maybe that's the people in your company. We're using people who are very well educated and have this great skill set to be able to set up these systems and to set the parameters on the gate and to run all this great stuff, and we have them digging a hole because that's the way we've always done it. We're wasting their time, and we're missing out on money we could be missing out, or we could be collecting, because our star integrators are digging holes. Surefire allows you to multiply them, allows you to have them do twice as much work without having to dig holes and bore and trench and bend conduit. So it allows you, we talked about winning more bids because you can efficiently complete your jobs. Here's the other thing. And we're going to talk about this in just a second, how you can do this, but people who are using our units, they don't get callbacks, because, and you can be confident with this product, because it's not like a lot of the wireless products you've seen in the past where you say, well, I'll try it, and then 2 days later they're calling you because their stuff doesn't work. We have an amazing amount of success with this. We've had thousands of installs this last year, and I've been out on some of them. And it's just been a fantastic, fantastic product. I talked about the dead file, revisiting that dead file, and they're getting 60% back who are still interested in doing it. So this is a way it's going to help make you money. This is a way that's going to get you a competitive advantage, and you're not going to have to dig the holes, waste your time, and you won't have to hire as many people. You can just be more efficient. And that's the value proposition for our integrators, and they do a fantastic job. I just take my hat off to them, because they're out there every day, and the people come up to them and say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And they start thinking, and they call me and say, hey, will the Surefire unit do this? And I'm like, yeah, we can do that. And so we come up with a new application, and these guys are fantastic. And I have somebody in Las Vegas, I was telling you about this guy with the dead file. He's using 20 of these a week, because he's got his guys out there knocking them out using a Surefire unit on every single thing instead of wiring it all. He's made a business decision, and he's eating people's lunch, because they're doing it the old way, he's doing it the new way, and he's taking all their work. So any questions so far on that? Okay, hold on, I got a question come in from Avi again. Can it be combined with alarm systems? Need to connect magnet siren from roof to ground level at high-rise building. Okay, let me I'm going to answer this a couple different ways. First of all, one of our systems is already UL listed, and some of the other systems, which are the exact same system, they're just a slightly different carrier piece that's in the pickup, will also be UL listed shortly. But there are limitations, especially in depending on if you're talking about fire or if you're talking about a burglar. If it's fire, there's some really stringent limitations. You have to be UL listed with certain things, and there's the primary versus a secondary. With the secondary type of thing, you can use our units to reset things, whatever. But if it's fire, you want to really look carefully at that, and you can chat with us individually. If this is an alarm system for like a burglar or intruder alarm, then generally speaking, this is a great fit. I would probably need, Avi, to get a little bit more information of what type of system it is and what type of siren it is. If it's a magnet that is like a mag lock that has power going through it, and as soon as that gets opened, it sets the alarm off. Things like that. That is stuff we can do. That's not a problem, because we can go through both wet, dry relays and all that. I probably just need roof door. You just sent me some more information, so I apologize for everybody else who's listening. It says it's a roof door alarm from roof to the ground level. Yes. So, for example, if it's like a door position sensor, as soon as you send that, it's going to go down to the bottom, and you can have that trigger an alarm. If, like I said, if it's got a magnet, we can do that through it as well because it's a wet contact. So yeah, this looks like it's going to be a really great fit for that. Avi, if you will contact me, we can go through the specs on it, and I can help you to make sure that what you're wanting to do is a good fit. But it sounds like some of the things that I've already been out on, and basically doors that as soon as they open, there's an alarm system. That's no problem. That's exactly what we do. And the Wiegand unit, or even the relay unit for that matter, would be a perfect fit for that. Okay. So we'll move on, and if there's other questions and follow-ups, please let me know. All right, one of the reasons that we developed this, and this is called the evaluation kit, this is the way that you can be confident. All right, I totally get it that previous wireless systems have disappointed you. When I came to this company, I did not believe it would do what it would do, because I'm a radio guy. I've had a lot of experience with RF, and I said, there's no way that's going to work. You can't get radio out of a Faraday cage. You can't get it out of the steel boxes. Well, you can, and Surefire does it. So what we've done is we've done this evaluation kit so that you can keep it in your truck or van or whatever. You take it out on a job. You can put one side at the controller, and then you walk over to the doors where you want to connect it up, and you test it, and it shows you the signal strength. So you and your customer can confidently install Surefire units. And these are available. If you go to, you can go to EPCOM for them. They have them there, but you also can go to the Surefire site, and you can just at the bottom of the first page that you go to, you can put in some contact information, and we'll send one to you free of charge. All right. We want you to have the tools that you need to make sure that you know exactly what Surefire radio will do. People have taken these, they'll leave them in their office, they'll drive 3 blocks down the road and over a couple blocks to Wendy's and have lunch, and they're still getting 4 out of 5 of the multipaths coming back, and they're like, we can't believe this works like this. It does. We want you to test it. Don't take our word for it. Get the testers from EPCOM or from us, and go out there and test it yourself. We want you to be confident with it. Here's some products we have coming up. We've got a Relay Pro with 8 relays, 2 8 amp and 6 single amp relays. We'll have an access that will actually be able to do OSPD, as well as some other things that have been developed. And then, of course, our serial data that sends serial data with RS-485 or RS-232 wirelessly, which, same radio, exact same radio, it's just what's in the back of the pickup. You've got, in this case, serial data, which we're really excited about. And this is the one we've been using to get that compressed voice. So, you know, for these cell systems that you have to pay $50 a month for, you can do a push to talk with the Surefire unit and they don't pay anything. It's just a one-time purchase and no monthly subscription. So these things coming up, they're not quite there yet, but they're getting awfully close. We've got them, some of them in beta testing, and we're really excited about those. So let's do a review. So value proposition, you can save a lot of money, you can be more efficient. I normally this would be a time where I'd take questions from you guys about the value proposition, like how am I making money with this thing? I hope I've explained it well enough that you can see, like, holy cow, you know, for under $300, I can go in and not have to waste my time. And if you talk about the real cost of wiring, you've got two guys sitting on a job maybe, or even one who's having to bend conduit. The second you have to get conduit out, the second you have to get a trencher there, even get a shovel out, you are money ahead putting a Surefire unit in and just getting done in 15 minutes. So unique in the Surefire unit's unique in that it goes where nothing else will go. And like I said, I don't expect you to believe me, but I have done this hundreds of times, if not thousands. People take the units and they say, well, I don't think this is going to work because wireless doesn't work. We've already tried it, blah, blah, blah. And they take it and they're just shocked. They're amazed. They're, wow, that works. That's amazing. So we want you to try it. We've talked about the products and how they're used. We really talked about a lot of applications, and you guys have come up with some great questions and some ideas that I'd love to talk to you about. And some of you, I hope, will get in touch with me or get in touch with your EPCOM representative, and they can get in touch with me. And let's look at the specs on what you're using, making sure it works. But it sounds like we've got a lot of things that this is going to work really well on. What other questions do you have, guys, or ladies? I'm making assumptions there. So any other questions coming in for Victor, I'd love to answer. Now, while he's giving you the opportunity to do that, I'm going to go down here and let you know that we have some additional resources for you. I'm just going to show you some screenshots of our app that we kind of touched base on earlier. App pulls up here where you scan the QR code, gives you an instruction manual and a video out there so that you can pop it up and say, hey, how do I do this? Or you're sending somebody out who's never done one, has a video right there for you. This allows you to pair and unpair, update firmware, operating values, configure, troubleshoot. You can trigger your relays from the field, see what your voltage is, see the history of your relays right there, as well as Wiegand information. You can set some heartbeat times, some fail-safe, what you want the controller to do, which is really important with how we do our forklift application. This one that we just went into recently had 24 forklifts, got a Surefire unit on every one of them, and using the fail-safe has made that really nice. There's a lot of other tech specs and wiring diagrams that are available if you'd like them, and we'll kind of go back there because I don't want to bore you with all that. But I don't see any other coming in. Victor, do you have any more questions coming in for me?
Not at the moment. So everyone, just please send us all of your questions. We're gonna try to answer them all. And then we're also gonna be sending the presentation as well as the video after the webinar. So check on your email. We're gonna be sending that. So if anyone else, okay, I'll send you this one.
Okay. So while he's sending me that question, please take down my information. I'd love for you to call me and ask me about your application. Like, for example, Avi, I think we've got something here that'll work well for you. Please give me a call. I'm happy to help you through that, and I think this would save you a whole lot of time and a whole lot of hassle. I've been so impressed with these integrators that I've worked with and how they've used these. And so anyway, take down my information, both email and phone number. And if you, as you get out there, I have people call me all the time from the field. Hey, real quick question, how do I do this, this, and that? I answer it for them. They're good to go. So we've got another question coming in. It says, I'm just reading it through really quickly. Okay, so this is a great question, Nick. And his question was, he didn't understand the complete connection. He said, I saw the presentation was oriented to your Wiegand relay on the side of the controller, but where are they sending the information? Where's the master controller? Okay. Here's how it works. There's actually two units that look exactly the same. And I just showed you the one side. But the two units that look exactly the same except for the name. One is called the controller interface, and the other one's called the remote interface. And the remote interface goes out to the door or the gate or whatever, and the control interface actually connects directly into your access control controller panel. And you wire in the Wiegand like you would normal Wiegand wire. You wire in the relays right where you do your relay out wires, and the controllers and the doors or whatever you're using, they can't tell the difference. So I hope that makes sense that there's two units, and we basically take wire, get rid of it in the middle, and make it all wireless in between through heavy obstruction and distance. So Nick, I hope that answered your question. If there is more clarification, I'm happy to do that. Let me come down here, see if I can see one that might have, yeah. On this page, you can see there's a controller interface and a remote interface. So the controller interface, the one on top, is wired directly into your access control controller, and the bottom one is the one you put out at a door or a gate or whatever else that you need to do, whether you need to put a position sensor on it or an exit or exit button. It has all the abilities to do that with a single unit. Okay. So there was another question that says, do we have to pay a license for operation every month or for use? No, this is a one-time purchase. Once you purchase it, install it, there's no other cost. Zero cost. So you just, I know that you're used to sometimes having to pay for these licenses or contracts that you have to pay, 20 bucks a month or whatever it is. This is not that way. We wanted this to be something that you can put in and forget about. It just does its job, and you don't have to pay any additional licensing per month or use. So I hope that answers that question. So great questions.
Okay, if someone else wants to ask something else, if not, we're gonna end up the session. Thank you so much, John, for this great presentation. And just to remind you, we're gonna be sending the presentation in video